Rhulani Mokwena, the prodigy Yagapito Mosimane, Rhulani Mokwena, the coach of the season for dSTV Premiership and also the coach of Mamelodi Sundowns. He's the guy who's also been helping the team to win games. He hasn't lost any games so far, which is very interesting. So stay tuned. We're going to be talking a lot about what he's been doing, what's his contribution, and what's going on behind the scenes. What has made Mamelodi Sundowns to continue the culture from where it was and what have been doing right so far. Hello once again, welcome back to the Diski channel. Please continue to support. Thank you so much for the guys who have shown the love. Please now don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and also click on that notification bell for more of these nice episodes on a weekly basis. Where to start, man? Where can we begin when it comes to this guy, man? So for me, what came to my mind is just to be able to understand where he comes from, because that's important to understand the person he is today. As young as he is, he's actually come from a lot of things, gone through a lot of things in the game itself. To be where he is quite interesting. But for those who, or those of you who don't know, he's actually the nephew, the legend, Orlando Pirates. Now, I don't know how it ties in. Apparently, one of the daughters is married to Ivan Koza, or there's just a family tree kind of structure there. But I'm mentioning this thing because to show you that he does come from a football family, but he hasn't played professionally as a player. But what is interesting to know is, football has been part of his life for the longest time. But now, what's interesting to know, obviously, Pep Grandako, as we know, he's a former Orlando Pirates coach. He was an assistant coach, actually. He was also a caretaker at the time. I think it was Micho days, where Micho was the coach and he actually left and he took over from him. Now, what's interesting in that sense is we could have seen some glimpses where Pirates was actually playing some good football at the time. Now, many could argue, yeah, Umicho already had built the team enough, so maybe he was taking over a ready team. But obviously, you could see his identity because really, to be honest, at that time, to a certain extent, they were playing exciting football. But obviously, that didn't last, and we couldn't have seen a large sample size. But what you can see in terms of his character is very charismatic. Wogumuntu confident, was very outspoken. So obviously, at his age, Mina, I didn't know much. That's where I knew him. But okay, who's this guy? Then obviously, the most strangest thing happens. When have you seen a coach being loaned out to another team? So that's what happened to him. I guess at the time, maybe they saw that they were giving him experience. He needs to test himself out, maybe in a smaller club. Maybe they didn't want to lose him at that time. So that really didn't last, where he went to cheaper. As we know, a cheaper reputation now, but they're not really that good in regards to retaining coaches. Fortunate enough, for me, this is why what I call opportunity, or preparation meets opportunity. Upito Mosimane called him, picked him up, put him under his wing. Yeah, and Nomangoba, they became assistant, and they started winning things. They started winning things with Upito. So for me, in my mind, I'm thinking, yes, of course. There, one of the key thing is he was learning. Humble as he is, he was learning. And at the time, that's why I'm saying, Guti, obviously we know Peter Mosimane, one of the biggest coaches in Africa. Obviously, he himself is a tactician. So, I mean, you have to be the best, you have to learn from the best. But now, all of a sudden, I want to Bangashi, we can argue in saying, good, okay, fine. After then, Peter left. He was part of a co-coaching setup or a system. But as you saw, that system didn't last for long because obviously, Nati, it was the first time being exposed or having to actually be known that there is something called a co-coaching system. But what was beautiful to see that thing was one of the things that it continued the culture of a winning team. They continued where Peter left. And the team didn't really seem like it was disjointed. The only thing is maybe personnel, a few players they were different. A lot of players came in, or a lot of new fresh faces that we saw. But he was still part of the structure. You could see his hand in a sense where he was still outspoken. They were co-coaching, they were part of a co-coaching setup. But as young as he is, coming to a big club like Mamelodi Sundowns, he made his presence felt. So now, obviously, in the past season, I think where they started to get a lot of draws, And remember, Umangoba Mngeti was kind of given the senior role there. He was demoted and the co-coaching system was abolished. So when it was made known, it's okay, Rhulani Mokwena will take over as a senior coach. For me, that's when you can start to see a lot of things that, okay, sure. Yes, we can argue he's surrounded by Steve Compella, well-experienced coach. He's been coaching with the dSTV Premiership, a former player himself, and being part of a senior team, or the national team rather. You can say with, yeah, probably has a hand in some way, somehow. Mangoba Mngeti as well has won things as an assistant coach and as a head coach once upon a time. So probably because he's surrounded by that, we can't discount that the fact that, okay, but still Rhulani Mokwena was able to thrive in those things. Because easily when he took over, he could have lost a lot of games. He could have lost, let's be fair. But now, it takes a lot of character, again, to come to a team as big as it is, having to have won as much as they've won, losing a coach as big as Upito, comes in, he doesn't lose a match. With the squad that they have, having to now instill his own way of wanting, obviously, look, we know, Sundowns has already a foundation. So they do have a foundation. So maybe, again, that's where I say you obviously the environment has to favor you. I mean, you have to be smart enough to know that the club is supportive of what the ambition that they have in regards to giving you the right budget, having to buy the right kind of players. Because look, we can all say, yeah, because they have money, but you need to use it right. You need to be able to use it in the right way. So obviously him also, he's still part of the structure because they also identified the right players with the money that they have to invite the players so they can continue where, or the foundation that they have, to have a bit of consistency or continuity. But now what's nice about this thing is, at the very same time, what the beauty part is, he still was able to keep the squad hungry, keep the squad gelling and having chemistry, and you can see they have a good relationship. Yeah, some of you may say he came in and changed, introduced Utebogo Mokwena ahead of Uchali. Some can argue that Keshas was introduced and some players were sacrificed. It's part of football. Football politics at certain points because all coaches have their players. But we have to argue at his age, coaching one of the biggest teams in the country and operating at the level that he is, that's something to look into. Because for me, I feel this is the kind of coaching that we deserve. I mean, this guy at his level, he's able to compete with coaches that have been in the Premiership for more than 20 years. He's coming with ideas, fresh ideas, mind you, that have now challenged their thinking, challenged their ideologies of football. So for me, the future can only look interesting enough, especially next season, where I definitely show some of these clubs are going to be beefing up their squads, but most importantly, the style of play that they've continued to show. That's the more interesting part because he has actually picked up where they left off. I mean, look at the kind of presence that they've made or they've made known Gukev. So we can't discount the fact that he has come in at his age and actually has proved himself as also a tactician. He also has enough to prove to certain coaches that, look, given the chance, I feel for me, he is well deserved in terms of coach of the season. At the same time, he deserves us to acknowledge the fact that moving forward as young as he is, I think there's more he can give us because you can tell Uwek ethic yake is one of the key ingredients that we are seeing what's happening on the pitch right now. So it's very interesting where Sundowns, for me, is still going to dominate for the next 3 to 5 years if they keep him, right, mind you. So these are the kind of things that, for me, I look to him because I know his ideas, looking at the young players, the players that they've kept, the players they continue signing, and how he's able to use the squad and rotate it in a sense. So it shows you that there's an understanding, there's a clear idea, and they still keep to the philosophy, which I would admit I was critical of because I kind of felt when they lost Pito, probably coaches will come in and want to disturb the fluid way of doing things. So for me, what I've now come to know is that Sundowns alone is an institution, and they're showing us that they are very serious about football, and at the very same time, they are not afraid to make important decisions when they feel the change is needed. With the fact that at this point in time, what we are seeing, this is black excellence for me. For number one, he's a black coach, he's young, and the people who are there assisting him around. I mean, you have to be that good to be able to also be surrounded by people that you can trust at your age as well, and being able to look everything. I still believe an assistant coach needs to be more knowledgeable than the coach to some extent, because obviously in terms of suggestions, in terms of ideas, in terms of how to the kind of relationships you're building off the field with these players, so that you can bring the best out of them. These are the things that we can't see. Tina, when we go and watch a game, we want to see football, we want to see results, and also obviously they have to win with flair, and they have to win convincingly. So they have a DNA that have shown us enough that Sundowns is capable of that. And now, obviously, maybe their benchmark is what? Is Africa. They want to go there. So me, hopefully, if they happen to win a KF game, the football that they're going to be displaying, they will show that, hey, South Africa, there's actually football being played. People know ball here. People are actually now, the standard of coaching as well has changed. That's why you see, I think Kevin Hunt in some of the interviews have shown that they've learned, because Sundowns now has set the bar very high. We're not talking money, talking coaching ideas, coaching philosophies, being able to have a way. I mean, one example I could make is when they played Pirates in a cup game, and now the return match they played against them, league. I'm like, whoa. I think when they used Tapelo Morena as an inverted to left wing back when he was supposed to stop Salin, tells you Rhulani Mokwena was part of those decisions. And the setup that they have is very beautiful to watch, because I think they have technical squad. I think there's like 24 of them, if not. If you check how they've kept their staffing, especially with the legends, and at the same time with how they are able to keep the foundation very strong. So for me, the future, it's still going to be more of the same story. I think it's about the clubs themselves setting themselves up in a good light, so that they can actually convincingly show, which obviously Pirates has shown that they can actually compete against these guys. But obviously these are the things that we can't talk about, or we don't talk about them enough, because we haven't been shown enough to be able to see that what we are saying actually decides or dictates the kind of play that you are able to see on the pitch. So for me, that's my opinion based on me, based on what I think about Rhulani Mokwena. That's why I call him, for me, on my side, he is a tactician. I think he deserves the title based on what we've seen. I mean, we've had a good sample size to really see, because based on his journey and look at the kind of character that he has, based on his history, where he started as a coach and where he is now, I think we can only see greatness, because Upi, to remember, to be the coach he is today, things didn't start well for him as well. So these are the things that now maybe there's a certain change. There's a mood and atmosphere that is changing our coaching. Obviously, looking at the fact that we are seeing a lot of young coaches coming into the game. So Rhulani Mokwena, for me, he's going to be a case study one day. I'm telling you guys this, when you look at where our football is going, I don't think the standard is as bad as people say it is. It's just that obviously when we start to pinpoint such conversations and we see a club that is really taking football this serious and they're representing us well, especially when you go out of the country, we can only look at the kind of coaching methodologies and ideas that are being put. And coaches like Rhulani Mokwena, their name come up. His name is going to come up at some extent. I mean, it's been suggested now to the national team. As long as I think that move is premature, I think these are the kind of things we can actually see moving forward. Okay, for me, that's it for this week. Please don't forget to leave a comment. Tell me what you think, if you have a difference of opinion. Tell me what you think, or what do you feel he has lived up to the name to be called a tactician, or do you feel different? Do you think he needs more time? Do you think next season is going to be tested? Do you think if he was in another team who he performed as well as he has now. Thank you so much. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on the notification bell every week for this exciting episode. Thank you.